he was spotted. Now, I just want to comment to you about the insanity of paparazzi, and like just the scene that's unfolding in this video is so chaotic that it makes me uncomfortable. But he's gonna, he's walking out of the store. Of course, there's like people following him at every turn, and they're starting to ask him questions, and he just kind of goes again, like just off the rails. So he's apologizing, but he's not apologizing at the same time. So I think we should watch this.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Like, look how insane this is.
Let's go, baby.
I'll see you guys there. Oh no, they got it back.
Gianna, Gracie, what's this way?
All right, Yay. Hey there.
Like, can you imagine, like, okay, you're that person, and that this is like the chaos that follows you every single place you go. Like, how could you not be affected by that mentally? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I hate that I know people who live around. So for me, I'm like, oh my God, like, please.
Yeah.
Just no more.
No privacy, and just people just looking at you like you're at the zoo. Like, that's how it feels. Like, this is like everyone
Taking
just
pictures.
Yeah.
It feels so invasive. It does feel like I hated every single paparazzi video I've ever seen. Like, I hate how they're in your face and they're just, well, not in my face, but they're like in people's face, like asking the most intimate questions. Like, even the last time when we watched Ned and his wife get into a car, where the story about the car sex was happening. Even that, I was just like, gosh, how dare you go to someone and get in their face while they're like out in the middle of the day and ask them about their relationship? Like,
yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah, it's a very invasive. I cannot believe there's no laws about it yet. And there probably won't be, because like if you're in public, that's sort of the law. Like if you're on a public street, you can get your picture taken. People who are like, you're not allowed to film me. That's not true. You're allowed to film anyone, at least in the United States. You're allowed to film anyone as long as you're on public property and they're on public property. Like you.
Yeah, I think this is just the beginning, though, of something. And I've said this a million times, like, but like TV and stuff, they're kind of new industries and we've not caught up to things.
Yeah.
But I feel like this will change, because sure, it's public, but then when you post it on your private, like, newspaper, on your private tablet, it's no longer the streets. It's like, so I feel like there's gonna be some sort of changes in that, but I don't know when exactly that will happen. I think it will only happen if something bad happens.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, or the interesting thing is, like the paparazzi have sued celebrities who take the photo of themselves and post it on their Instagram. They sue them for copyright infringement, because it's the photographer who owns the rights to whatever they take a photo of. And there was like this thing a while back. It was like this debate because this monkey in a tree in like the jungle, they put like a GoPro out or something, and the monkey is holding the like lens, and like the monkey owns the rights now. So they were trying to like I don't know. There was a whole thing about a debate like probably 10 years ago about, who owns the rights. It's like whoever is taking the photo owns everything, even if it's a monkey. It was like very weird.
Well, we're so developed as a species. Like, look at us. Look at us come up with ideas.
I know. Before we move forward with this horrible scene unfolding in front of us, thank you to Scout Hunter Spaceman. Thank you. They say your VOD on fitness industry abuses was 4 out of 4 stars. Thank you.
No, that's sweet.
That was last night. Thank you.
I missed it.
Oh, well, you can watch the replay. It's a little heavy, so beware.
Let's tune into this ankle.
That's what they do on the fitness bodybuilding stage. But yeah, Dave came in last place, but it's actually more nefarious. I think the whole industry is like pretty gnarly, according to this Washington Post investigation. And I sort of was disappointed that neither Dave nor Heidi made any sort of comments about the expose which it seems like they would both probably be aware of by now. So that was
I mean, I don't think they are the kind of people that are just about to like do everyone a favor.
No, I agree.
So
Yeah. Anyways, we appreciate it. Okay, back to yay.
yeah.
How you feeling after this week? How you feeling, brother? I feel good. You look great. Thank you very much, sir. You look great, my girl.
Thank you, Kanye.
Do you want to talk about anything, Kanye?
I mean, do you think you're being unfairly targeted for the comments that you've been making?
Do you feel like it's unfair?
Yes,
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, anti-Semitic statements are never good for anybody, right? It's kind of like being anti-black.
But, you know, it's really interesting. I didn't realize that I could be considered anti-Semitic till I read one of the definitions of anti-Semitism. Look at this.
Okay.
The definition
Well,
says,
he was just stupid.
making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, such as, especially, but not exclusively. This sounds like let them go by.
Music. Oh my god.
Right? So it says, think about it, that sounds like
I'm doing a press conference. We gotta wait for my this music to pass. This is very important.
You guys have to wait because like he struggles with the reading part. It's like I like that he had to take Google out and just be like, look at the definition. I was just stupid. I wasn't malicious. I didn't mean to, you know. I'm so stupid. I thought you were a genius. Yeah.
He's a genius, but he forgot to look up the definition. But he's again then gonna say like, oh, I understand now, but then in a 1 second later, not understand. So don't get too excited.
Totally understand.
Yeah.
the type wording that's in the contracts, right?
Indeed.
Okay, it says, such as, especially but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal
But
institutions.
isn't that what you said? That Jews run everything?
Yeah, but that actually is considered to be anti-Semitic.
Right.
So
Yes.
I didn't realize that it was anti-Semitic to say, hey, you know, I have a Jewish attorney, I have a Jewish record label, I have a Jewish contractor, I have a
Do you
Jewish...
regret your statements?
Or the statements you think you should be walking back? I mean, considering...
What do you mean walking back?
Well, you know, backing up off of them. I mean, the thing is, you've lost a lot of endorsements. People are dropping you. You're getting, you know, vilified. You know, I mean, you might think you're right, but I think, you know, there's a whole world out there that's condemning you for what you said.
Okay, so this right here is a chart of Universal Studios, 20th Century Fox, ABC News, CBS News, Columbia Pictures, Warner Brothers, ESPN Sports, Fox News, Washington Post, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, MTV Music Television, Nickelodeon, USA Today, Wall Street Journal, Comedy Central, NBC Entertainment.
The lady in the back's like, "Who? What's going on?" she just walked into like a nightmare.
Like, wait, I came across another news article. Maybe this reading thing is not a bad idea.
I mean, I don't know what he's talking about. Like, okay, the CEO of the Washington Post is Jeff Bezos. I don't think Jeff Bezos is Jewish. So I don't know what he's reading. Like a list. It's not like, oh, these are all owned by Jews.
So
It's like,
he's just doubling down on it. That's good.
I guess that's what
That's a
I'm
great
assuming.
idea.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't realize I was anti-Semitic, but I am. So
Yeah. He's like, no, now I'm confirming that I am. I just didn't know.
now embracing.
Yeah,
Now
no.
I didn't know. When I said I wasn't, I meant I didn't know that I was. But now that I know, yes, I am anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Here's me being anti-Semitic more.
It's like,
How about that?
if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. If being anti-Semitic means this, then I guess I am. That's what he's saying, basically.
Google, what else do we have? Disney, ABC Kids and Family, YouTube, Los Angeles Times, Discovery Network, Paramount Pictures, Facebook, Huffington Post, Yahoo, Marvel, Hulu, Cosmopolitan, Time, Touchstone.
What about them?
Associated Press, Pixar, Miramax, HBO, New York Post, LucasArts, MSNBC, DreamWorks Animation. Now the thing is, I skipped over maybe about 5 of them because it was just unclear on this list. The red are
read.
the executives that are Jewish
Oh, Jesus
at these
Christ.
companies.
And
Do you think they stuck together when they heard what you said? Was that what happened?
Well, what I said is, hey, I've had experiences where it felt like I was being teamed up on, and I didn't realize that term would be considered to be anti-Semitic. So I had a mediation with Adidas today, and I think Adidas felt like because everyone else was ganging up on me that they had the right to just take my designs, and I feel like right now I feel like that was in Christianity we don't say karma, we say you reap what you sow. And I feel like this is God humbling me right now because there's two things that are happening. A lot of times when I would say, oh, I'm the richest black man, it would be a defense that I would use for the mental health conversation.
why
to say,
does he
oh, you
always
guys
talk
say,
about being rich? What is this? Like, I don't understand why he in the Piers Morgan interview, he also talked about being rich. Like, nobody asked you about money. We're asking you about
Yeah.
being anti-Semitic.
Well,
You can be rich and anti-Semitic, or you can be poor and anti-Semitic and still anti-Semitic. Like, it's not really like a matter of money here.
yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of things going on here, but I have a theory unrelated to yay necessarily, but when people reach a certain amount of income or a certain, oh God, gotta ban the Dave bots, sorry. I think a lot of people, when they reach a certain level of wealth, they leave whatever group they associated with previously, like whether it's a gender group or something they identify with. Like, I am a woman, I am my nationality, I am this race, or whatever they sort of find themselves, whatever group they find themselves. Once you reach a certain point of wealth, you leave whatever you were in before, and now you're a wealthy person, and now you only associate and understand the issues and lifestyle surrounding wealth. And I think this is what happens in his case too. Like, he can no longer understand and grasp what people that he might have associated with before are going through. Now he only understands what's going on with wealthy people.
But like, isn't this like super dumb? Because if this is true, which considering the source, I'm not even gonna attempt to say that this is true. But let's just go with his joke, right? Let's assume all these people, all these companies are indeed run by Jewish people. Isn't it the dumbest thing? Do you not understand? Nobody's gonna sponsor you. Nobody's gonna get you to work for them. Like, how dumb is this? What are you doing? Yeah. Like, what is this?
And the thing is, like, who cares? Number one, like, okay, that may be true. It's like, okay, his perspective and a lot of anti-Semitic people's perspective is like, well, that means they're all secretly collaborating together to create this network, to create this like whatever society, whatever. It's like, okay, could that be true? No, but that's what they think. The truth probably is that in that culture, they also lift each other up, and it's a very insular culture. So if you're Jewish and you have a business and you're in that, religion, you might get help from a fellow Jewish person because they've gone through so many horrible things through the years that they look out for each other. So is that a horrible thing to do? I don't think so. And it's like, that's another perspective on the whole thing. Like, yeah, that might be true, but maybe that's a indication of like how people can help each other when they want to.
The thing is, I would really, really struggle to believe that this is true, because I'm sorry, but Christianity and Islam are probably the biggest religions in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that there are more Jewish CEOs than there would be Christian or Muslim. I just don't believe it.
Statistically, yeah, I don't know. I don't think so either.
Considering the vast majority of this planet is Christian / Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
I think the Jewish are a minority. Like, even with them being a lot in America, maybe still a vast minority in the world.
The one thing I caught myself and I need to be careful about, it's like I'm very like hesitant to say anything negative about the Jewish people or being in a position of power, but I really don't have a problem saying like, oh my God, this, evangelical Christian CEO did this. And I don't know if that's fair. And I sort of need to figure out where I stand on it, because, if I'm going to sort of like go, oh, this religion, it's so cringy, but then the other one's not. I need to be careful.
I mean, to me, all religions are Christian.
I agree.
So for me,
I totally agree.
I don't believe in any single one of them.
Yeah, I don't adhere to any.
Maybe I believe in that Pastafarian guy. I don't know if you know that guy who argued in court that he believes like he's a Pastafarian because he likes pasta.
The spaghetti pat thing.
Yeah. I thought that was brilliant. But seriously, like, I mean, I just don't think that it matters at all, like what religion they are. What difference does it make? They still need workers. They still need people to.
Well, I would say it does matter in the sense of I would be critical of someone in a Christian position, like a Dave Ramsey, for example. Dave Ramsey runs a company about financial, success and planning and whatever. But if you're a part of his company, you have to adhere to his like biblical principles. And I have a huge problem with that. But if he was Jewish and he said, oh, like you need to adhere to my Jewish principles, I don't know if I would be saying the same thing. So I just need to be careful when it comes to my feelings about religion and my feelings about religion and politics, and make sure that I'm being fair, because I think I haven't necessarily been. I think, it shouldn't matter. It should be irrelevant in the conversation. And, I just don't want to be.
The thing with that, though, it's what we're discussing there with Dave Ramsey is not the fact that, oh, how dare he be a religious Christian who has a company.
Yeah.
What we're discussing is discrimination against his own employees. And that's a different discussion. You're not allowed to discriminate based on religion. It's illegal.
Yeah.
So the fact that he does is like he's putting his rules, the rules of his religion, or I don't even think they're the rules of Christianity. They're just Dave Ramsey's rules. He's putting them
rules
above the law.
Yeah.
And that's just like illegal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think this is because if this the news came out that all these Jewish CEOs are firing people for not being Jewish, or firing people for not adhering to Sabbath, or whatever it is that, something related to being Jewish, then we would discuss that. We would discuss the same thing. We would discuss discrimination in the workplace, not, which is an illegal thing to do. Not the fact that they are Jewish themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that's important to point out, because I don't want to make it seem like I only will criticize Christians, because then it becomes like, see, we're all, prosecuted by everybody. It should be fair, but I think that is a good distinction. Like, it's not just because you are, adhered to a religion and then that's, open field for criticism. It's if you're using it to control or to break the law or to create a hostile work environment, then I feel like fine to chime in.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good. Thank you for helping me work through that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm crazy.
It's happy.
Yeah.
But look at this, I made money. And but that is not godlike to be showing off. So if it's not godlike, then God will take that, because it's all the church's money, right? So what's happening right now is I'm being humbled. Another thing that's happening is by me being burned to the flesh every single day, it's actually proving what I had to say. So
What?
when I went to the mediation, what I want to say is, like, black people are like, okay, Lex Friedman got you to apologize, Pierce Morgan got you to apologize to the Jews, but you never apologized to us about the George Floyd comment that made us feel bad. Now the thing is, okay,
beware. You haven't seen this clip, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen the clip, but I've seen some things with Candace Owens, and I just...
Beware, this comment that I think he's about to make it right now is like wholly offensive.
Okay.
He's about to talk about George Floyd. Okay.
Yeah.
And how he feels about it now. Okay.
JFK, they got a lot of documentaries about how it happened. So we can argue about how it happened, which I like the fact that we can do that. But regardless, when I see that video as a black person, it hurts my feelings. And I know that police do attack, and America is generally racist. And I understand that when we got to say Black Lives Matter, that the idea of it made us feel good together as a person, as a people, right? When let me say it so the soundbite is better for you guys. When the idea Black Lives Matter came out, it made us come together as a people. Now afterwards, yes, there was some things where the money went. There were some things where it was used in order to push us to the Democratic vote. There were people behind him.
Okay, this is not the offensive part, by the way. It hasn't come up yet. This is fine. By the way, this is not the part that I was talking about.
Yeah, maybe is this triggering for people? Let's put a trigger warning.
Yeah, I'll put up.
Well, if that happened, but the general
I'll put up the comment. Thank you, Maddie. Well said.
Thanks, Maddie.
feeling. So when I said that, and I questioned the death of George Floyd, it hurt my people. It hurt the black people. So I want to apologize to hurting them, because right now God has shown me by what Adidas is doing and by what the media is doing, I know how it feels to have a knee on my neck now.
Oh,
That part.
oh.
Because Adidas backed out of
Did
his
not,
multi-million-dollar deal. Now he knows.
Oh my God.
Isn't that
this is
horrendous?
I did not expect this at all. Fucking hell. Shut up, you idiot.
That's the most insensitive comment I think he probably could have made right there.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, George Floyd's death is the same thing as Adidas backing out and you becoming just a little under $1 billion.
Yeah, as if he doesn't own multi-million dollars of property. He has, even if he went from his net worth of whatever, multi-billion dollars to multi-millions, even if he went from that to zero, he still could get alimony from his ex-wife probably still, because they share kids. He could get child support. He has a life no matter what he does that's going to be secure financially from now on.
No matter what happens to his money, he's famous.
Yeah.
So people will always pay him for things. Like
Yeah.
if it's not the left, it's the far right.
Yeah.
Anyways, somebody will pay him to like push their agenda. Ben Shapiro is right on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No way, because Ben Shapiro is like Jewish. He's not happy. But Ben Shapiro changes his mind like every 5 seconds, so I don't know how he feels anymore.
Yeah. Last thing I heard him say was that, he respects, he doesn't like cancel culture and he respects the right to say whatever you want. I was like, okay. But obviously he doesn't like it, but he respects the right to say it.
He said something like, I commend you for coming to the conservative side of I don't know. Like Ben is very this is one of the things that I like about, and this is going to sound really bad, but just stay with me for a second. But this is one of the things that I like about Jordan Peterson, because he kind of sticks by what he says. Like you hear him say the same things over and over. Like, he means what he says, regardless of how offensive those things might be.
Yeah.
Ben Shapiro is annoying because he also
flip-flops.
switches positions like all the time. Like 1 minute he's pro Kanye, the next minute he's against, the next minute he's pro again. I got so confused making that video about I don't even know if I made that video actually, but I was watching.
In your head, you made it.
I wanted to make that video. But anyway, he's flip-flopping all the time, and with Kanye I noticed it very, very it was very obvious. And I cannot stand it when they do that. Like, just be one way, like I understand. I
Have
understand
convictions in life.
Peterson, because like he's staying true to his convictions, but like Shapiro is just a bit of a whore.
Like, I'm all about changing your mind as well, but I think that you need to explain if you have a public persona and a public opinion on something. Your followers, listeners, whatever, sort of, I don't know, I deserves the right word, but it would be nice to have an explanation of how you got to your next point, just so you can think through the thoughts, so that people who are following you, because there are a lot of people who just follow blindly to celebrities and to pundits, whatever you think, I'll think. So if you change your position, you need to explain, like, okay, this is how I got from A to B, and this is why. I think that would be so helpful, but a lot of times it's just like, I've changed and no one can criticize me for changing. It's like, okay, I think it's good to change sometimes, but I would like to know why and how, so I can understand it logically, but you rarely get that.
Yeah, and the thing is, well, you don't get it, because I think oftentimes what happens is they're just trying to be inflammatory to get like in the news and stuff. And I think this is really why, because frankly, when you think about it, like, they built an audience of people who believe in the same things that they believe, and feel like they can relate. So then suddenly going against that, it's like oftentimes just for inflammatory purposes and just to stay relevant and stuff, which is why sometimes I get so cynical about public figures, like to the point I don't even think of them as human people. Like, even with Kanye, like, I'm sorry, but my last concern is like his bipolar. Like, I wish I could be like, oh, I'm so sorry that he's bipolar and he's going through all these things and he's having episodes, but like, look at what he's saying, and it's making people be actually like violent towards Jewish people. Like, I don't care that he's going through an episode. There's like a real consequence, because he's got real fans, and also, people who are neo-Nazis and stuff will take anything that comes their way. And Kanye has just given them like a whole bunch of things to work with now.
Yeah. And I'm a huge freedom of speech person, probably not even too much. I think it can't be too much, but no one has silenced him. He's literally has a platform. He's back on Twitter. He can go into public and speak to all these media outlets, whether they're reputable or not, whatever. But he has had his, hours and hours and hours of on-camera time in the last few weeks. No one has silenced him whatsoever. The consequences that he faces, I agree with Kat here, is not a silence or a freedom of speech issue. You can't just say anything you want and get every job you've ever applied for. There are consequences for what you say and what you do and how you act. So his freedom of speech has not been impeded whatsoever at all. In my opinion, he has consequences. That's a different conversation that has nothing to do with anyone but him and his, contracts.
Absolutely. I feel like people with the freedom of speech conversation, people don't understand what freedom of speech means. Is that you can sit there and talk, which is what he's doing. The thing that would happen when your freedom of speech is taken away from you, really, if that was what was happening, that means you're put in prison, or you're put in a situation where you are unable to talk to anyone. About what you believe in. You're not able to share your opinions. You're not able. It's
not what's going on.
The freedom of speech does not apply to social media platforms. It's not
People
about
liking
social
you.
media.
Yeah.
It's not about. It's about literally having the freedom to speak in the street, which is what he's doing. It's about having the freedom to speak to whoever he likes and just say whatever he likes. He can say anything he wants about the government. Nobody's going to take his freedom away. He's not going to be, it's literally, nobody's going to take him and put him in prison for it. That's what it means. It's a literal freedom situation. And I feel like every canceled, I don't know, celebrity or something, freedom of speech. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah.
You're free. You're walking free on the streets.
It's the same thing when people start to say cancel culture, like when someone disagrees with them. It's like, that's not what cancel culture is. Cancel culture is when you have like none of your sponsors that, like, he is being canceled right now. I would say Ye is being canceled. But like when someone like James Corden goes, oh, I was yelled at a waiter and I'm being canceled, and this is the problem with society. It's such like a roll my eyes thing. It's like, just because people don't like every move you make, and this is my whole thing about negativity. As soon as someone has a negative thought about you, all of a sudden you're like, oh, cancel culture. People just want to cancel me and dogpile on me. And that becomes like your excuse for having, a horrible attitude. And it's so ridiculous. I'm so sick of it at this point. It's like, you're not being canceled. Like you have, like in James Corden's case, you have a show on network television. You cannot say, oh, I've been canceled because someone disagreed with how you acted in public. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And I think it's never like talked about the opposite thing. It's like, well, but what about your rise to fame? What about all the times when you were given all these money, all these opportunities, all this? You never said, I'm being, I'm being used, I'm being not used, I'm being helped by whatever population. You never said, oh, this is the opposite of freedom of speech. Right? You never said, and like you never complained.
Yeah.
You never thanked people. I mean, I'm sure they did, but like, I don't think they are really grateful. They really do believe that they bring something to,
because they manifested it. They woman-fested it themselves.
Yeah, but
alone.
suddenly that you got to a really famous spot and you have billions of dollars, suddenly people criticize you and you're such a victim. That's just poor you, like right, left, and center, even when you're being so hateful.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much sympathy. And for the conversation about bipolar, it's a hard one because you could speak out of your mind. If you are in an episode and you're not on your medication, you haven't slept, you might say things that do make no sense at all. And you might be more subjected or vulnerable to conspiracy theories, perhaps, because that type of culture breeds like all of this paranoia and all of those things. So you can understand all of that and you can sympathize while also criticizing and say this is unacceptable behavior and the consequences that are happening to you are 100% deserved, while at the same time holding space for bipolar is a complicated disorder. It's not understood enough as we wish it could be. Hopefully in the future it does become more understood. And, this person does have all of the resources that millions of Americans do not have in helping their mental health issues. So all of that being said, I still feel the way I feel about how he's acting, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyways, that was the most inflammatory comment, but I think we should still play it just to see what else he says.
Yeah, let's keep watching.
In my opinion, I haven't watched this in full, so that was the one that I saw pulled out, and I was like, oh, Lord, okay. And then he's going to talk about a doctor being Jewish or something, so that's also coming up. So again, trigger warning for more anti-Semitic comments.
So I thank you, God, for humbling me and letting me know how it really felt. Because how could the richest black man ever be humbled other than to be made to not be a billionaire in front of everyone off of one comment that actually, if you look at the definition of DEF CON, it means to get extra defense, which obviously I must have needed.
Yeah.
I must have needed that extra defense.
Oh, you did. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, who are these people that are like, yeah, preach it. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been humbled. Yeah, you've been
That's humbled. All. Yeah, George Floyd died so that you could be humbled by Adidas taking away your deal. Like, what?
Yeah. Like, just, I'm so sad for him. Can you imagine having 1 million less than a billion?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. 990,000 million?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like one comment. No, it's the collective idea of your comments the last,
Yeah.
4
And also,
weeks.
At which point does this become really just them doing a poor job of being a public person? Like, because I think this is their job. His job is not, or at least he's made it his job, because he is a rapper. He could be singing, but what he wants to do is actually just commentate on society and whatever, that if that's what you want to do, fine, but this is the job. It comes with pros and cons, and I know it.
Yeah,
I feel like when I get canceled, and I'm gonna be like, oh my god, they took my freedom of speech away. Like, you guys send me this clip.
Yeah. Humble yourself.
Humble
Cam.
me. Humble me.
Oh, that's funny.
You ruined your legacy, Kanye?
How?
Well,
Stop.
I'm not worried. I'm just not worried, period. God is alive. God runs the world. You know, God even runs Hollywood. God is alive. And he's using me right now. He chose me for such a time like this to basically for the media to put their knee on my neck. For Adidas to put their knee on my neck. All I ever wanted at Adidas, I left Nike because Nike wouldn't give me a percentage for my shoes when I had the Red October. And my girlfriend at the time was pregnant. And I needed to get some money. Because if I was the kid that just had the red shoes, I could have never been a black man wearing a red hat. When the
This is not prolific. These people who are like, right. I don't know what they're on.
What exactly makes all of these influencers turn to God every time they get canceled? Because Brittany Dawn has done this. Like, the minute you're canceled, suddenly I found Jesus. God does not speak through Adidas. God speaks through me. I'm being humbled. Like, shut up.
Because they don't like the criticism from fellow humans. So now they're like, I don't answer to you. I only answer to God. And now they have a higher,
there you
holier
go.
than thou,
I'm afraid we are all his God, I'm afraid.
I don't have to listen to what you say about my comments. God said to me last night, I dreamed that I'm perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I am such a flawed person, but no worries. I found Jesus on the toilet floor. I was just in the fetal position.
Good. And it's
in that cement.
People
bathroom.
didn't let me wear a red hat. You were at the White House. What are you talking about? You had
It wasn't a red hat. It was a Trump hat.
Yeah, well, Trump, but you've been in the Oval Office with Trump. That is like supreme access.
How did he? Yeah, like what is he going on about? Like
no one said you cannot wear that.
Like,
people are going to be offended because
nobody said that. People just disagree with him.
Yeah. Half the country, more than half the country voted for the other guy in the last election. What do you think? All those people are going to be like, oh, great. Yeah. Sorry.
But nobody stopped him.
No, exactly. No one stopped him. I think that's the confusion. It's like people need to agree with me 1000% on everything or else you're against me. And it's sort of like...
That sounds like small dick syndrome to me.
Yeah. And also it's sort of, if you are into religion, I mean, that's sort of how God, I would imagine the perception of God is like, if you don't agree and believe in God 100% on everything God has ever said in the Bible or whatever, then you're going to hell. So it's almost like these people take on this godly persona and go, if you don't agree with everything I've ever said, then you're a hater and you don't, like me and I can't stand for that. Like it's very extreme. Like it's black or white. It's not any realistic perception of any of this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's just more of I don't know. To me, whenever this happens and they start to talk about God, and I'm not sure why he goes back and forth between money and God, because
yeah,
I have no idea where in the
rulers.
Bible it says that one needs to be a billionaire. But I guess if he can send me the paragraph, I'll change my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But
Actually says the opposite, but yeah, I guess. I mean, from what I've heard.
He's like, it sounds so desperate to me. It sounds like, I have nothing except my money and my faith.
That's more than a lot of people have.
Yeah, like most people don't have any money. So
yeah, just relax.
But it's like, it's very like, oh, I've been stripped of my, like, what have you, like, you're literally doing everything you want to do. If you want to go back to music, you can.
Create a factory and make a brand of your own shoes. Why do you need Adidas if you're that great?
Crumble cookies.
Yeah, just put a couple eggs in a bowl.
Sue the crumble cookie guys.
Yeah.
Like, they're on a rampage now, so maybe they need to be humbled too.
Yeah, if you want to start your own shoe company, no one can stop you. Do it.
Literally, like,
yeah, go for it.
He's free to do whatever he wants.
Yeah,
and he's here like playing victim as if he's been imprisoned or like just like
it's
the
ridiculous.
Comparison to George Floyd is like so
horrendous. That's the worst.
Disgusting.
That's come out of it. Hold on 1 second. Thank you. Okay, let's watch more.
Like Nike would have shut me down immediately, right? Right. But because Adidas was a German company, it gave me a little bit more room to be able to express myself and to actually have a political opinion as an American. That I wasn't forced into a political opinion because of the color of my skin. Now let's talk about the red hat, and let's talk about the similarities to the White Lives Matter t-shirt. The thing about the red hat that drove me to a point of exhaustion, which was misdiagnosed by I'm not gonna say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media it went to. We know I can't say that.
Okay.
It was a Jewish doctor that diagnosed me.
That is like, it's so horrible, but it's like such a TikTok sound already. Like it's just made for TikTok. That like I
Is
can't
it on
say
TikTok? Is it viral?
I bet. I haven't even looked, but I'm sure it is. Like, okay, when you're telling someone you can't tell them the secret, and then 1 second later, you say it. And I'm making a joke. It's not even funny, but like, oh my God.
Maybe he should rebrand as a comedian. Look how good he is at making me laugh. Like, it's just amazing.
I can't say it. I say it.
I'm speechless.
So now his bipolar was misdiagnosed because he's the Jewish doctor. Okay.
Oh,
That's what he's
so
saying.
he's not
It's
bipolar.
insinuating. Thank you. No, he's just rich, apparently. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So he's suffering of richness, or what? He's suffering of money.
That could be
Too
a
much
disease.
money. Yeah.
Affluenza. I talked about affluenza before, and I said influenza, and everyone was like, "What? Are you talking about the flu?" I'm like, "Oh no, affluenza. Sorry, when you're
I
too
wish
rich."
I had that disease.
Yeah, I just have a cold. I'm just cold and lonely and poor. Okay.
Of having a disorder that would have had me on medication right now. At a time like
You
this,
should get on it.
if I was on medication right now, then one pill could have been swapped out and it would be Michael Jackson and Prince all over again. But because I didn't take the misdiagnosis and I didn't take the medication, I'm able to speak to you guys clear of thought and transparently. Now let me talk about the red hat.
I'm sorry. Once again, this is my dad. Like me trying to get my dad to go in the car to go to the hospital. He's like, I'm glad I didn't take my medication. I'm like, Dad, please go in the car. We need to go to the hospital immediately. And then a month later, he's like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate your help. Because I shouldn't say they, but in my dad's case, he is a diagnosed bipolar. You don't want your medication. That's part of the illness. It's part of how good you feel off of it. But that's the mania part. And it's, I don't want to speak for, yay here, but this is nothing new and like magical to him. It's a part of the disorder that makes you do this. So, it's annoying.
Also, like, I cannot believe that he's constantly saying that he's been misdiagnosed. He's been given the wrong pills because he's been misdiagnosed by a Jewish doctor. It's like, bitch, you're so fucking rich. What's stopping you from seeking another doctor?
Yeah, nothing.
Get a Christian doctor. Get any other doctor. If you think this Jewish doctor has misdiagnosed you, pretty sure that you've got options.
Yeah.
Go get the right diagnosis, which is definitely not what this is.
I just think it is. So it's because he's public and he's like, he's got this anti-Semitic stuff. If he was just saying like, I was misdiagnosed and I don't want to take my medication, like that would be a very typical response of anyone who's bipolar and not on their medication. I'll just say that. I don't think it's a Kanye specific thing. The Jewish part is the part that he is specifically saying that's wrong. But the other part,
he's throwing in like everything. He's throwing everything that he can at the problem.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, well, first of all, I am definitely anti-Semitic. Second of all, I don't have $1 billion anymore, so feel sorry for me. Third of all, I'm bipolar,
but I'm not.
I'm mixed diagnosed too by a Jewish doctor. So
Yeah.
all goes back to being anti-Semitic. Like as you guys can see, I am anything but wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much where he's getting at. Because otherwise, I'm like, what is this? What is this?
Here's something I'm going to bring up. It's not controversial, but like a little bit like sort of, I don't know, whatever. Maybe it's controversial. Okay, so if someone with Tourette's was like screaming, you know, the N-word or saying, you know, I hate the Jews or something like that, like would we blame that person for what the content of what they're saying is?
Maybe he does have Tourette's.
Yeah, maybe he's got Tourette's too. But would we blame that person? I don't think so. And I wonder how much, I mean, definitely we can blame him. And I said, like, I'm holding both at the same time, but how much of this really is bipolar too, on top of it all, as confusing as it is, like, I think a lot of this is bipolar, and it's a bipolar episode. Now, you know, when you're in these positions of power and you have yes people around you and you don't want to be on your medication and no one's there to hold you accountable, that's where things go off the rails. But I don't know. A lot of this is, I think, mental illness, unfortunately.
Yeah, but see, I worked on a documentary about Tourette's a few years ago, and these people have no control over it. They don't get jobs because it happens during interviews. They can't get a relationship often because you know, you go on a date and this starts to happen. This is
Do you think it's similar at all? Like, and
that is not, no, because that's not them expressing a thought. That is a physical. It oftentimes is the same thing. It triggered at one point, and then for years and years it will happen again and again with the same word. Like some of the people that I remember were in the documentary, where they would say the word fuck all the time. Like it's just, it was very offensive words. So you can imagine when you say those words just 17 times in an interview, and you're not getting the job. Like so it's not that they were saying, oh, I have this opinion about, like, there's no opinion. It's just like, it's just a physical manifestation of a thing. It just keeps coming. So I think it's almost like a brain glitch. I don't know how to explain it, and I honestly have no idea really, because I have not studied the disorder. But like just seeing it, it's not something that they are thinking about, or that they want to say to the world, or that they you know, in fact it stops them because they're trying to say something, and in the middle of expressing a thought or an opinion or whatever, this keeps happening. It keeps popping up, and it makes it very difficult for them to communicate, and for them to be understood, and for other people to give them opportunities. And you know, so I understand that I don't think that being, like, again, I don't know really enough about mental health disorders to like really have an informed opinion. But in my opinion, with bipolar, it's more of a matter of just like I don't think it affects your speech.
Yeah. I guess I just mean to say, like, you know, with that, we can kind of understand and go, okay, like, I know, because like it's fairly obvious that there's a condition, like, you know, what that person's saying, I'm not going to really take to heart. And it's just with this, I'm like, okay, for sure the not taking your medication part is part of the disorder of bipolar. So, you know, if, and I'm not saying this is true, but if bipolar made you more conspiratorial because the way your brain works, because the way, you know, social media and all this is working and pushing this content, probably now, especially like the algorithm that he's on is probably so far down like this right-wing conspiracy theory thing. And he, as a person who's got this bipolar disorder and a full-on mania right now, sans medication, is like consuming it as if this is like CNN's 24-hour news coverage, making him this way. Do we have any more sympathy for that or not? That's why I'm like confused, because I'm like, you know, it is a disorder at the end of the day, what he's going through. He has to work harder than someone who doesn't have the disorder to push past these triggers. What he's saying is completely wrong, but I'm like, ooh, you know, I don't know. It's hard to not acknowledge the mental illness part of all of this.
Yes,
I know.
I mean, yes, it's true. But at the same time, anyone in his position could afford to get someone to work with him and be like,
Yeah.
look, you're on payroll. You have to stop me from ruining my career when I
Get like this.
get an episode or when something happens. Your job is to stop me, take me off the streets, take me off interviews.
Yeah.
When you are lucid and when you are not having an episode, you could absolutely do that. He's got so much money, he could absolutely do that. He could get an entire team to do that.
But maybe it's the fame and the money that puts him over the edge into this category of, you know, he's surrounded by people who don't want to say no to him, so they're afraid. I don't know. Like I'm torn. I'm not torn. I'm not like, oh, I feel sympathy for him. I don't. But in the sense of, it's complicated. It's very complicated. I don't think Kanye himself goes, if he was lucid and on medication and living his life, is going to sit there and go, you know, the Jews are really trying to switch my pills and whatever. I think this part, at least, of what he's talking about is clear signs of mental distress. And you got to imagine, he's telling this to a group of people, shoving a camera in his face and flashing photography at him. That's got to have an effect on your mental health as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just think that he's been famous for a long time. So he would have, if this was really what the issue was, if this was down to his mental health disorder being just sort of too much to handle, this would have been handled years ago by an entire team. I just don't think that he would have let it, because like, imagine, like, you don't want to lose your entire life,
Sure.
like everything that you do and your music and your contract and everything, you know. Like if I was to get any opportunities as a YouTuber, for example, and I knew, well, I can be very anxious and depressed,
Yeah.
and you know, I had money to like hire people to help me when
A
those
life
things happen.
coach for 20 grand a
Oh
month.
God, not a life coach, but a therapist would be much better.
Yes.
I would absolutely do it. You know, and
Sure.
you know, I don't think this is. It's too, almost like too new. Like it's suddenly, when you're doing all these controversies, we're suddenly having to excuse it for bipolar. But when you did things right and you got really great albums, we didn't say it was bipolar.
Yeah. That's very true. It's like it's saying like, I'm just human. It's like, well, when you were human when you found success as well. And so now just
Yeah.
like, but I'm human. It's like you were human both times, so I don't care. I agree with what you're saying. And I think with the bipolar discussion, I do have like personal experience. Like, for example, my dad one time when I was like, like 8, perhaps, he threatened to burn down where he worked. Now, my dad is the most gentle, kind, nice, easy, even keel person like in my life, honestly. And that's not my dad, you know, and it's not him. And he made the phone call 100% convinced like he was gonna burn it down, and that was like just and fair or whatever. He got into the hospital, he got back on his medication, and then he was fired, obviously, but he doesn't believe that when he's fine and medicated that he wants to burn down where he worked. And that's where I'm just like,
You wanted the building?
my dad threatened to. He didn't do it, but he said he wanted to. But that's why I get caught up in all this, because I'm like, I know that's not my dad. That's not him. That's not his true beliefs. But when he would say that he met celebrities and he was working with celebrities, like, I'm working on an album with Paul McCartney. I'm like, I know you're not. He knows, and then later on, he knows he's not. But when you're in that state, it's very hard to separate reality and fantasy. But my dad was not being approached on the street with cameras. I'm sure if he was, he would tell them all of what I just said to them openly and calmly and go, yeah, I believe that this is and I'm working with, Paul McCartney right now. So it's hard for me. I think it's tough. It's tough for me to watch this and not feel a little bit like, this is part of it. This sucks that this is being documented and put out to everybody all over the world, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And I just think my distrust is towards the fact that I think that he would have been doing and saying these things years ago, or not these things, other things that were,
Yeah.
but I think I think he's sort of doubling down on it now
Yeah.
more than is because gosh, I wish we had an expert that could help us like understand it better, because I don't understand I don't understand enough of it to like really, but I feel like I just think that it would have been, I think it was handled before.
Yeah.
We didn't get news that he was bipolar until relatively recently.
I mean, bipolar 2 can be brought on by a stressful environment or some sort of incident that happened. So he might not have been bipolar, and he might, from my understanding, and I am not a mental health professional whatsoever. I have my own personal experience with my dad. That's it. But my dad had a pretty bad car accident when he was 16. And then when he was 17, he got diagnosed. He had no symptoms before the car accident, and he had a head injury from the car accident. They say like something, if you're a hoarder too, with any of these conditions that are kind of like weird and we don't understand it, like something like your parents die in a fire or something, or your parents are hit in a car, and then all of a sudden you now develop like a hoarding disorder, or you now all of a sudden have bipolar. Sometimes they say, stressful situations can bring on the disorder. So maybe when he hit a certain level of fame, that stress and that overworking and all that fame and all that could cause the bipolar to come on. And so maybe before, when he was growing his career, he didn't have these problems, and now that he's at this place, it caused him to have it too.
Yeah, could be.
So
Yeah, I think stress does all sorts of things. Like,
Yeah.
so many things that are like physical manifestations.
Yeah, definitely. So anyways, just to keep in mind, and again, like what he's saying is ridiculous and horrible. And the problem is, he should be speaking this into a void of a universe of people who go, this is ridiculous. This is a man struggling with his mind, as opposed to, oh yes, this is great. Oh, Kanye has stepped up for us, and we are just loving his truth. And wow, finally someone brave enough to say this. That's what I'm seeing online from a lot of people, and it's troubling as fuck.
Yeah, and that's the problem with being like a public person, because like you have people who look up to you and they will do what you say, and not only that, but also the other side that is cannot wait for someone to just sort of become their what's the word I'm looking for?
Mouthpiece,
Yeah.
spokesperson. Yeah. I just think, it's, I don't know. It's all, it's the world we live in that's really the problem here. Like, and how do we fix that? We can't. So, let's let it watch it burn, I suppose. I don't know.
Wearing the MAGA hat the way that Hollywood's political agenda attacked me and put me to a point of exhaustion was death by 1,000 cuts. Everyone would say something to me, from a driver to my ex-wife to Adidas. Everyone would say something. So when I wore that White Lives Matter, I said, I'm not going through this again. I'm not going. Hey, y'all gonna leave me alone about my t-shirt. Because what's the point of having influence and having money if people could come up and just pinch you?
But don't you think having influence, you have a responsibility?
And that's the responsibility that I'm taking right here.
Don't you think
That's why
those
you asked that question.
But don't you think it's dangerous rhetoric to be anti-Semitic, to say all lives matter or white lives matter? No, I'm asking.
You're harping on
No,
something.
it's saying white lives matter, anti-Semitic. That's what you just asked.
I'm not saying that's anti-Semitic.
No, you just said that though.
No, and I misspoke. But I'm saying
no,
to
you
walk
didn't.
around
That was a
with-
Freudian
You didn't
slip.
I'm trying to correct myself.
Okay, correct
So I'm saying
yourself.
to walk around with
Do
a
you
white
want
lives
to
matter.
walk back that statement?
Sure, I will.
You got the chance to walk back that statement.
Do you think maybe that? Do you think maybe
No,
that?
wait a second. He's gonna walk back statement.
But I'm saying you're wearing the White Lives Matter shirt.
Oh my God, shut up. I don't want to hear you laughing.
And Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people think that you're being anti-black by saying it.
No, how?
What?
Let him talk. In America, black people don't take all the rights that we have that are actually given to us.
And that's true.
Because we weren't given what we were promised in the first place, which was the 40 acres. Instead, we were given...
And a mule.
And a mule. Instead, we were given projects
God.
and bad food and posters of Oprah Winfrey. And also Planned Parenthood.
What's he got against Oprah?
People
What's
said to
he
me-
got against Oprah? I know what I have against Oprah, but what's he got against her?
He wanted a mule instead. I don't know. I'm unfamiliar with this historical reference, I guess.
Historical.
I'm
old, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like something that was from the 1800s, I'm assuming, or something. And Planned Parenthood. Okay, now we're on this side of things. I mean, I don't know. I don't have much to say, really.
Let's hear his point, because I'm struggling here.
Yeah.
me multiple times, visit the Holocaust Museum. I said, visit our Holocaust Museum. It's called Planned Parenthood.
Oh, Jesus
6
Christ.
million
Oh, my-
Jews died in the Holocaust, and I am sorry for
No.
your losses.
No, you're not.
20 million blacks
I'm sorry.
died to abortion, and Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger with the real KKK as population control. Margaret Sanger is a eugenics and is working today. The number one cause of death for black people in America is abortion. The most dangerous place for a black man today,
Jesus,
or black
somebody
baby,
needs to
black
take
woman,
him off the street.
is in their mother's stomach. And that is a programming that's pushed through. I got a new word for 2024. The red media. That is the red media. If you go to Apple right now,
Why would Jews want to kill black people? That makes no
What
sense.
is his point? I understand nothing.
I don't know. The thing is, like, if this is an issue that you care about, like, really, then I think you should work to make everyone have universal income or something where people can afford to have children. If it's the same thing when people stand outside of Planned Parenthood now and protest and go, "Don't do this, don't do this," but then say, "Just put your kid up for adoption." Oh, how many kids have you adopted? Oh, none. Okay, then shut the fuck up. Like, if you're not going to, if you are there protesting and trying to prove your point, it's like, put your money where your mouth is and start adopting some kids. Like, I don't want to hear it if you have an opinion and you're not, living up to your side of things. It's like, I don't know.
This is so chaotic. Like, I'm not able to keep the pace. Like, I just feel like what is he trying to say? Like, he's trying to, like, compare traumas.
Yeah, like, oh, the Holocaust is one thing, but have you heard about what happened to us? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, like,
Yeah, and they're both, like, the biggest strategies in humankind.
yeah. And I don't think Planned Parenthood, I think it's the only thing. No, I think it's a good thing for society. And if a woman wants to choose to do whatever,
slavery. I was talking.
Oh yeah, yes,
like slavery and the Holocaust are the
atrocities.
single biggest atrocities that have ever happened on this planet. And
Agreed.
And Planned Parenthood, where the fuck did this come from? What are you
It's a
talking about
conservative.
here?
It's a conservative talking point, because even when COVID was happening, it was like, yeah, well, 1 million people died from COVID. Yeah, well, 2 million people had abortions, so that's the real tragedy. It was like,
Yeah,
okay,
but those are not people.
well,
those are
they
not-
don't agree. They disagree. This is a whole,
That's
debate
just the
about.
sperm. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
not
whole
a
other
person.
conversation, but yeah, I don't know. He's a conservative now. This is what happens when you make money too. You somehow become more conservative a lot of times.
Yeah. No, suddenly when you get canceled, you're like on your way to the far right, and
Yeah.
you find community again.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to Parlor and Twitter.
if you go to Apple right now, go to Apple Music. Let's load up the top 10 songs. I guarantee you they're promoting black serial killing. Absolutely. Not just one. They're promoting the red media is making money off of blacks being serial killers to each other. Also misogynistic. The red media is making money off of that. And God sees it. But I understand, and I'm not judging because the oppressed becomes the oppressor. And it is our time now. Blacks are coming into money. We are not scared anymore. And I showed you that I crossed that line. They tried to bankrupt me. They tried to say I was crazy. And I'm alive. We haven't had a full black community since the gentrification of Harlem and Black Wall Street, which was torn down. But I know my brothers, my engineers, my architects, my farmers are gonna rise up. And if it meant they had to take me and drag me like Emmett Till in front of everyone, because I whistled.
Emmett Till, he really likes to compare himself to the victims of abuse and murder a lot, but then also wears a White Lives Matter shirt, and it's this very confusing, conflicting message. He's just like George Floyd. He's just like Emmett Till because he wore a White Lives Matter shirt.
Okay. Yeah, what's this chat about? Like, oh, look, we're now like finally, you know, black people finally have power and money and whatever. It's like, so why are you wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt at Paris Fashion Week?
And wear it. I don't give a shit. Honestly, I don't care. You look like an asshole. That's your right to look like an asshole. You know, I don't care.
Yeah.
You can wear it.
You can wear it, but it doesn't mean that people need to like it.
Exactly. It's like, as a good thing that reminded me is when all this started, like, 2 years ago or whatever, and people were like, all lives matter. It's not just Black Lives Matter. It's like, okay, if you're at the, breast cancer awareness walk and everyone's like, okay, we're here, we got an issue with breast cancer, it's on the rise, we need to work on it. And then I was like, all cancers matter. Breast cancer is not any more special than any other cancer. How dare you? And make a big fucking deal about it and go to this walk and say, stomach cancer matters also. Like, everyone be like, what are you doing here? Like, we get it. No one's disagreeing with your point, but like, we're here for a purpose. And this is the thing we're addressing now, today. Like, that's why I'm like, with this whole conversation about, wear the shirt, don't wear the shirt, whatever. No one is saying, oh, white people don't exist and don't matter in this world. No one has ever said that in my understanding of basic, human conversations about this topic. So I don't know.
Yeah, this is pretty unhinged of him. I have no idea what he's going on about. He's lost me.
Yeah. I think he's lost himself. And the people that are the problem is, honestly, the biggest problem I see with this whole thing is the people that are there going, yeah. That's only feeding his delusions further. And that's the real issue.
Probably doing it on purpose. They want him to keep talking.
Probably, yeah. They're probably paparazzi. They're getting paid to hear him say something out of this world.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
I know my brothers, and I have no reason to lie. My family was taken away from me. My reputation has been smeared. I get it.
You got divorced.
What do you mean your family was taken away? Who took your family away?
Pete. I don't know.
Well, no, but like, he can go see his kids probably all the time. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got a confusion about taking away and being left.
My money was taken away from Adidas. My family by Kim. Like, bro, she can choose.
Yeah, women have rights, despite what you may
Women are
believe.
also people. When white lives matter too, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Kim's lives matter. Kim's husband's
let's close
matter.
with a prayer. Father God, thank you.
Lord.
Thank you for keeping me alive. Thank you for the voice. Thank you for the clarity. Thank you for the experience. And thank you for the love. Because even though the real hate is what's happening on the media, and the idea of DEF CON was to get protected for a time like this, let's lead with love. I have no association to any hate group. If any hate happens upon any Jewish person, it is not associated, because I am demanding that everyone walk in love.
Shut up. Yes, it is.
Unfortunately, you don't have control of that. So that's a good legalese. I am protected
I
from
have
any.
never heard someone say the word DEFCON and protection in the same sentence, but I guess there's a first for everything.
Didn't he say
Imagine
death
saying,
con, like death con? I thought it
yeah,
was. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Sorry,
he
I
misused it, I think,
mispronounced.
too. No, you said it right. He said it wrong,
Oh,
I believe.
he. It's just like what, because like this is the same Nazi rhetoric that has been going on for a very long time. Like, oh, we're just protecting ourselves. Like, you're not protecting yourself. You're like killing people. Like, that's what the Nazis were doing. And he's saying that same thing, like, oh, the whole idea about my tweet about DEFCON is just to protect people from Jewish people. Like, excuse me?
He's
How?
like, well, it's
How
not
are
my
you?
fault that the media is just made up of Jewish people. So therefore, I'm just criticizing Jewish people in the media. It's like, okay. I don't know what you're I don't think he knows what he's trying to do at this point. He's just reading articles off of like the Daily Wire and InfoWars and just like putting it into his own brain funnel and then repeating it out loud and having people go, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's been really like going to all these interviews like Piers Morgan, and it's like so happy right now to be contrarian, because he got fired from Good Morning America. Sorry,
Good Morning, Britain.
Good Morning Britain, a while ago. Um, he's gone on the Fox News thing. So all these people are like,
Using
yeah,
him.
keep spreading this. Yeah, exactly. And he's just here. I I don't think. I don't know. I just hate that this is happening.
Yeah, me too. And again, my issue is that people listen to this and go, wow, yay. And that's my concern. Because people think like when we learned about World War II, and at least in the United States, I think a lot of people thought, and this is an argument I've heard before, and I think it's interesting. They go, I would be on the side of the protectors, the people who are helping the Jews hide, and I would stand up and like not be okay with this because we have hindsight behind us to go, oh my God, look at how horrible and horrendous that was, and we can see it clearly with video evidence of like how bad it was. But when you're living in the moment of it and there's things that are happening that are not okay, you can't see the full picture yet. And it's a lot easier to not be on the right side of history, I think, more than people think it is. Because there's people alive now that are still working at jobs probably, or at least like, about to retire age, that were, leading protests against segregation. Or no, for segregation. That were like, we're not going to integrate our schools. And those people are not dead necessarily. Those people are still out there somewhere, and that chose a side and chose, I think, the wrong side. So I don't know. I think the fact that people aren't immediately going, this is wrong and this is ridiculous and we've learned our lesson already, is scary. It's the scariest thing about all this.
And I think people really just kind of, you can talk all you want while you're at peace and whatever, but when things really hit the fan, and that's not a moment where it's just like you get your survival instinct, and that's pretty much all it counts. Like those people who like Anne Frank didn't just become heroes because they did the usual thing. It's just.
And we're trying to take racism, any talk of racism out of schools conversations, which I think is a bad idea. Not being able to discuss what has happened in the past, or people being afraid to say the wrong thing so that the whole conversation about what racism is doesn't get discussed at all. I think that just leads to more confusion and more indoctrination by people like this and, websites without paywalls.
Yeah, the fact that they're trying to take those conversations out of schools is I didn't know about this, but that sounds so bad.
Well, it's a complicated issue as well. They're calling it critical race theory, which is not like what people think it is. Critical race theory, from my understanding, is like a collegiate level like theory on race and society, and it's taught at a very high level in college for a certain major. That's what critical race theory actually is. But when Republicans and right-wing people took it and made it a talking point in these, town hall debates, they made it seem like, oh, teachers in schools are making white kids feel bad about the color of their skin, and that, they're all oppressors and they're all horrible, hideous people for existing as white people. And we can't stand for that. That's what's being taught at our schools. And then there is a complete uproar of parents and people going and saying, I don't want this taught in my schools. And now it's become something completely different than when it started off. But basically it's now become like, let's ban books that deal with these certain issues. Let's take it out of the curriculum. Let's, now it's bleeding over into LGBTQ stuff. Like, we just don't want that to be a part of our curriculum. Like, this is scary stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Deleting education and truth. So
yeah, because that, like, why is that a good thing? Why do you need to basically put your head in the sand in order to be able to keep going with the educational system? Why do you need to stop thinking about what it was that really built America? Why do we stop thinking about all these things? Why do you have to take it out? Is it because it feels like it's
uncomfortable?
I think it's because it's so disruptive to the system as it is, that they would rather just
Pretend it didn't
take your ability to even discuss it.
Yeah.
Because then the vast majority of white men at the top don't have to suffer, and they continue their charade, and it's nothing's ever going to change. They like, you have to understand, at least in the way I see it, why would a 70-year-old man like Trump want critical race theory to be actually taught?
He wouldn't.
He wouldn't,
no
because
benefit.
he's a white man who benefits heavily from being a white man in power. He does not want, Obama to be back, or he does not. Why would that help him in any way? Like, that would only damage his position in his power. And I think, unfortunately, it's just literally because the men at the top are benefiting heavily from things being the way they are, or even worse.
Yeah, I think it's the same conversation about freedom of speech. A lot of conservatives will say, oh, I'm just like, people just hate me. And they take this like villainous role. Like, I'm just telling the truth, but people hate me. It's like, people don't necessarily hate you. They just don't agree with what you're saying. And what you're saying is hurtful to their people, or to, a large group of people probably. And we don't have to all agree on everything. So, but they like, I think, well, I shouldn't say they like, but I think a lot of high-level conservative people who are used to controversy and all that, they like the role of like, I'm a bad guy who's just telling the truth. But when it comes to, and I think going back to the critical race theory stuff, it's like, to be a conservative in America means you have to kind of be supportive of a lot of atrocities that have happened. How did you get that generational wealth? Well, my great granddad owned a plantation. It's like, that starts to feel bad. So instead of dealing with how that feels and moving forward, it's like, let's just erase it from history. I mean, same with you go back all the way to the beginning of America with the native land and all of that. It's like, sweep that under the rug, forget about it, call it manifest destiny, and we'll just call it a day. And that's sort of what's happened. And it's been a fight to keep the truth alive. When we celebrate fucking Christopher Columbus Day still here in this country, it's like ridiculous. I don't know. I'm just going off now.
Yeah, no, I'm always here for that conversation. I just think it's also very, at least clear from some points of view, that they're very threatened by this.
Yes.
Like, at the top, they know that like change is imminent, and they're trying desperately to hide things, to hide history. How are you going to hide race? How are you gonna hide what happened? Like, you can hide it from America, but you think that all of the countries on this planet are gonna take it out of their curriculum? Like,
Yeah. No.
you know.
But yeah, the problem is, and maybe it's because and this is me being conspiratorial. Maybe it's because if they hide the truth of our racist past, then when these people come out with like, oh, I found these documents on a website that say that Dr. Fauci's a vampire, they go, well, that was hidden information too, so that must be true. Both of these things that have been hidden from the public are on the same value level. We need to include all information, all theory, all conspiracies, and then people don't want that either. So it's that like, okay, well, I guess we shouldn't talk about anything ever.
This is very close to home for me, because Romania was under a dictatorship, and we everything and everyone was censored. And this is, I guess, why I get so pissed off with this conversation about freedom of speech, because in Romania they literally took intellectuals that were talking against the government and put them in prison. They took their freedom away.
Yeah.
They took their lives away. They took them and put them in prison. And with the media, they only had like one program, all like just propaganda about the government. Like, they did not allow international media. They did not allow like things
Free
on
press.
TV. That's what went on for 50 years after the Second World War. This is not that long ago. This is 30 years ago when it stopped. Before I was born, that same December 89, and I was born in August 1990. So I was literally born into the free world, but my parents grew up in that.
Yeah.
My grandparents, like, that's all they knew. So many people of the next generation before me, sorry, that's what they grew up in. They went to those schools where they didn't get taught anything, where they knew all they knew was fear, and all they knew was that they need to like speak very highly of the president. They were brainwashed since 2 years old.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that was not the case before. This was not the way it was before this president that we got.
Yeah.
Like, before that, we were free to speak. So the reason why this is very serious, it's because I feel like it can literally change in a moment with one government. Like, this is what happened to us. The world happened, then we were like sort of like basically split. Europe was split in half. We fell under the Soviets. We got this president, and that's what he did. And he brainwashed population for 50 years. So these things are not like, this like, oh, it'll never happen, blah, blah, blah. We're too advanced.
No.
You're never too advanced for like someone in power to come and take everything that you know away from and change things in an instant.
I mean, they tried here to say Trump won, he's going to be in office again. And you think that he was going to let that go a second time? If he had somehow gotten like the election overturned into his favor, that would have been like, okay, now we're no longer a democracy. Now we are going into this new thing, and it's not people were on board with it once again. Like, it's not like America said, no, this is not our values. No, there was a lot of people who were like, yeah, good, let's overturn this result because it's all a conspiracy, and that whole thing with January 6th and storming the Capitol and all of that. Like, it's very much a possibility and realistic to be afraid of these things, I think, about being taken over, and because it's not like it would go punished. Like, what's happening, this is totally off topic, but like what's happening in Iran right now, where people are rising up against the powers that are pushing down on them, and they're becoming liberalized as we speak. I don't know if that would happen here. I think there's enough suppression, and we have all these weapons and stuff among the population that I don't know if we would be able to say, no, like, we want to keep our democracy. Like, I wonder if it would just be like, okay, like, conservatives decided like we're going to have Trump in office, and we've killed the president, and now this is what we're doing. Like, I don't know if we would have the power to fight back against that as a country. I don't know.
I think it's a matter of who, and this is where real power comes into play. And I think it's a matter of who has influence. And this is why influencers are like just the fact that he's talking all this crap like is so bad, because at the end of the day, the way that people garner power in those like in Iran, for example, it probably started small. It took a long time for people to just kind of get on board, the resistance, I suppose. Like,
Yeah.
so, just it's kind of like if Trump has enough access to media that he can only spread his voice and his message, or like the message of his party, and he only allows those people to talk, then they are going to gather power because people can only hear them and they
Yeah,
don't hear
echo
the other
chamber.
side. So this is why conversation is so like debates are so important. Just being able to hear both sides of the thing of the coin is like really very powerful in itself, because you don't have you're not getting brainwashed that way. You're just you're hearing, and you're able to think for yourself and just decide where you stand. And that is a freedom that has been fought for and for centuries, the freedom to choose. And like, and it's I think, unfortunately, the reality of the situation is that it's very probable that something like that could happen. And like, I think, because if enough people can gather around and are able to censor the other side, then any country is fucked. Like, it's like you're relying on the opposition. That's why you have, like, in the UK you get the Labour, who's the opposition of the Tories. And like, if you didn't have Labour, you would only get the voice of the Tories. You'd only get one side of the story. And it's the same for you guys with the Republicans and the Conservatives. It's very important to have two. Like, and this is what happened in Romania. The party, the Communist Party that took charge, they just basically obliterated the opposition, and so there was no more opposition. So that's how they got the power. They literally got rid of them.
Yeah, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. And then there was nobody who had freedom to speak against them. So that was it. That was literally, it's as much as
Yeah.
it sounds like complicated, it's very easy. They just got rid of the opposition and they thrived for 50 years.
I unfortunately think what would happen here, instead of getting rid of the opposition, like physically or pushing, I think it would be a psychological push to gaslight yourself. And I see that a lot, like on certain things, like, you can't listen to those idiots. They're not even from America. Like when Obama was running, like, Trump was one of the people who was like, oh, he's not even from America. He's from Kenya. Like, let's see his birth certificate. Just completely make it seem like the other side is so unimportant, and like, oh no, we're the only real side that matters. Don't ever listen to, like, okay, here let's tie it back into self-help. Here's how this self-help hurts this whole argument. It's like, only surround yourself with people who are positive. Okay, who's positive? People you align with, right? People who have the same viewpoints as you, probably. You're not going to want to listen to the other side that's, in your opinion,
People
hateful.
who are not going to question or like complain, so they're not going to
or say, no, something's wrong. Something's wrong about what you're saying. Something's not quite right. Okay, so self-help would say, don't go listening to that. Don't go listening to things like that and put you in a bad vibe. Oh, how horrible. Focus inwardly. Okay, focus inwardly. Everyone's focusing on the inside. So then what are you getting shaped by? The media that you're consuming, which is only what you want to hear because that's better for you as a person and for your mental health. The people who are around you, who probably were the ones who told you what to put on in the first place, because that's how we get a lot of our, beliefs and culture, from the people who are in the community, your family. And it's like, okay, so now we're all these little islands of belief because we're not listening to each other. And then it's like, now let's just take over the government. Like, I don't know. I think it's going to be more like that, like psychologically over time, telling people to not trust anyone else but us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, in today's world, it's also a matter of corporations having power and money just being, well, money probably has always been the ruling, power. But I think corporations now, and we see it, and this is what they're talking about when they say they took their freedom, because like it's getting kicked off Twitter. Twitter is a corporation, like so it's even more scary because
Yeah.
right now, if the far right wants to buy corporations, they know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like they could do that if they had the funds, and like or whatever. I don't know. They could do that probably. I don't think it would be as simple as like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy all of the social medias. But I think
Sort of what's happening. Kanye wants to buy Parler, or Ye wants to buy Parler, which is a conservative app. Elon's at Twitter. Zuckerberg's dying over at Facebook, so who knows what's going to happen there. Instagram, is sort of dying, they say. So I don't know.
Who's buying these people? Like, who's? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, someone could come in and go, "Hey, I'll help you bail out. You're losing so much market share a month, Zuckerberg. Let me take over." And then it's like,
yeah, like how long until Elon gets insane and is totally fine to be bought by government and whatever,
Sure.
and do whatever the government says?
Yeah.
Or like, it's, or not the government, but just whoever has any sort of way to get to him.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, because it's complicated and scary.
Yes.
Yeah. And we got to protect people's rights to speak, but at the same time, it's like nobody has the right to be hateful. That shouldn't be paramount. Just
It's
I don't
tough.
know.
It's tough because I'm like, my thoughts are, you can't restrict speech at all. You have to just hope that the population becomes educated enough to know when something's wrong.
But the population is not going to get
I
educated.
know, but I don't like the idea of like saying like this is hateful, this is not hateful, because in the sense of freedom of speech, because it's subjective. If I'm saying, something about like women have the right to choose, someone out there is going to be like, that's hateful speech. And I disagree. And I never want it. That's something going back to Jordan Peterson, I aligned with him in the beginning. You have to define these things very carefully. What is freedom of speech and what does it mean? Because as soon as you start to go, this is a hateful word, this is not a hateful word, it's subjective, and now we're putting laws on it, that's very dangerous, slippery slope, in my opinion. So I don't know. I'm on the liberal side of say whatever you want, but people need to be able to understand that, that's not okay.
That would be
discernment.
Great.
Yeah, I know. It's not realistic.
If they didn't go against education too. But
Yeah.
when they're going against education and they're taking things out of the curriculum, and then you pair that with just speak your mind and do and say whatever, it becomes dangerous because people are like unable to really get properly educated because
Yeah.
they're not given the means to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Like, I feel like
that's where it's tough.
Like, yeah, it's very tough. It's very tough.
Yeah, because I agree. So if I'm super liberal in the sense of like freedom of speech means freedom of speech, like whatever you say. Also, education needs to be open and liberal, and what is on there. But then again, like, okay, if you open it up to curriculum, then all of a sudden you're learning about some crazy other shit that's like completely insane. So it's like, I don't know. I guess that's the thing. It's like I'm not a person that knows what to do. It's frustrating. I don't know.
I love that our channel is like this very funny mix of
devolving.
like just us like cringing and laughing at influencers, but at the same time we sometimes like towards the 3-hour mark we go into these deep philosophical debates, and I love it
Because it's all related.
Totally have
though.
a philosophy.
Yeah.
We could be like cringe philosophers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I'm trying to think of a cringe-losopher. Cringe-Philosopher. I don't know.
Cringe-Philosophers?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, okay, again, we're two
Cringe-philosophy.
people. Cringe-philosophy. Ooh, we can write a book.
Oh, yes. Let's do it. What
How
do you guys
Kanye
think?
led us to fixing democracy.
Oh, it's not just Kanye. We've been having these chats for a year now. Almost.
True.
Well, not a year. Is it in February that we started?
I think
Soon
so.
enough, it'll
Or
be
April.
a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I did my first live stream in January on my channel. And I think we started shortly after because I was like, okay, it works. I know how to do it now. And then I think we decided after that.
I think it's February for sure.
Okay. Yeah. And I think the same thing too. Like we're working out things sort of in real time on live stream. So if I say something today, tomorrow I might go, that was a stupid ass thing I said. I take it back completely. So that is also always a possibility.
But
At
I'm
least for
here
me.
to protect your right to change your mind.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyways, do you want to watch the last minute of this?
Let's see.
Let's wrap it up with a prayer.
Even though there's been things that have happened wrong to me that made me want to speak up, that you guys saw in the past 2 weeks. You saw the power. You saw Ari Emanuel come out in public and ask, if that happened in public, what do you think happened in private? And what do you think happened in private to so many people for so many years? But what I'm telling everyone, no matter what background you are, no matter what socioeconomic class you are, walk with love right now. Do what God would want. What would Jesus do? Walk with love, spread happiness.
Jesus do, okay.
I thought that I wasn't gonna be like MLK and stand there. There's times I felt very Malcolm X, but for some reason God has called me to love and to ask for love.
He's compared himself. Yeah, he's confused because he's compared himself to George Floyd,
MLK,
Emmett Till, Malcolm X. So four people who are, at many different levels associated with Black history, and yet he doesn't see the irony of all of that.
This is so pathetic. How can you sit there and just literally be anti-Semitic and compare yourself to MLK?
Yeah.
MLK was the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah.
He literally had this speech. Oh my God. I don't think I ever listened to the full thing, but I've listened to like multiple things. Probably the full thing, but like different clips. And how can you say my tweet about going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people is being like Martin Luther King?
Because you're deluded and you need chemical medication to help you. That's why. I don't know.
Seriously, like that man was all about unity and just like a progressive future that would be good for everyone. And he's going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And that's the same thing. That's just like putting such a bad, like, it just makes me sad to hear this.
Yeah. I don't think MLK Jr. was like, I'm a millionaire. And so therefore they're just hating on me because I have too much money. Like, I don't think that was his point either. His argument was why they were, hating him.
For everyone, it's time for us just to love, because love is the answer. It is the only way. Gandhi said, someone who was actually considered to be a racist, right? Gandhi said,
what did he say?
An eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Jesus, Father God, spread the love. Put the love in our hearts. And know that we are not each other's enemy, but we're all children of you. And you can bring this world to a peaceful place on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys.
Thank you, Kanye.
We love you. I'm done with my energy's done.
What did he say? Can I get you on a Vine? What did he say? Hold on. Some random kid's like, hey, can I get your picture? Hold on.
Thank you, Kanye.
I'm done with my energy's.
Oh, a couple vinyls.
What does he say though? I'm done with my energy stuff?
Who, this kid?
No, Kanye, just after the kid.
Oh, let me see.
Thank you, Kanye.
No, I think that's what he said. I think.
No, he said just when the kid says that,
Oh,
he says something.
Kanye.
I'm done with my energy's done.
Oh, my energy's done.
I'm done. My energy's done. Okay.
Well, it would take a lot of energy
It's like
to get all that
going
out
into
there.
the mania is over. Okay.
My energy's done. I said my piece. I've said enough. Where was he? At
Like,
a
I've
yogurt
thought
shop?
so hard right now.
I'm going through the
Exhausted
hard.
from all this thinking.
I have to take a Skechers deal instead of Adidas. Oh, God.
damn.
So, so bad.
Just the freedom is gone.
Jeez. Well,
Didn't he also say he was Jewish on Piers Morgan?
yeah, and someone commented, I don't know if it was to us or to me specifically on my channel or something, or on Instagram, I forget, but they were like, oh, you need to look into like the first Jews were black. I'm like, okay, I just still think like I'm fine to like look into it and see what, you know, he may have meant, but I find to give him that much credit to like, oh, what he said was actually right and like he meant this and therefore he's a genius is just not what I'm trying to do with my time.
Yeah, I don't think he's thought about it enough for us to like put a lot of research into thinking that he thought. Yeah, I
He's
know
like
what
the
you mean.
lost tribes of something, and apparently, and I agree, like what he's saying, and I don't know what he's saying, but I think if you made the argument like, okay, Jesus, for example, you know, the picture that we have of him, like the white, pale-skinned version of Jesus does not make sense historically living in Jerusalem and then the, you know, the time frame where he would have been a dark-skinned man. That is like historically accurate, I believe, scientifically accurate, like just based on the sun. And yet, because we have this image of him taken around by white people, now that's changed. Okay, so if the argument is Jews were black back in biblical times, I'm on board with that. Black skin, dark skin, whatever. But I don't think that has anything to do with what Kanye's saying about today, Jewish media running ABC News. I just don't find the connection to be there, personally.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I can't imagine Kanye having done his research and just being like, "Well, did you know?" Like, so I don't think he. I don't even know why he said that. Like,
I don't know. And that's why I'm like, I don't know what to really look into. Like, I'm not disagreeing that that point is probable or something, but it's like besides the point of it all to me. Like, okay.
yeah, it's. I thought at first that he was gonna just use that as an excuse. Didn't really, so at least I thank him for that, I suppose.
Yeah, I get. And no, obviously, you can be Jewish and black. That is also a possibility. There are, you know, people who identify as black and also are of the Jewish faith. So that's also obviously possible. I'm not saying that that's not. So I hope that's clear. That I didn't think that
Jewish is
two
a
separates.
religion independent of color.
Yeah, and you can be Israeli. That's a whole other thing too. But that's not. No one's debating that either. So I don't find it relevant personally.